Hi guys, my name is Dante, and welcome back to the cheating, not tutorial at all, I'm learning things myself. So, I've been doing some work as I promised. Yeah, I created a couple of copies of the kid on the ground, and they're all in custom positions. One of them is holding another's shoulder, and whatever, they're all staring at us. And also, as you can see, there's a bunch of Spider-Man on the walls, looking like some horrible assassin robots that came for us. But that's probably gonna change when we add some more details in the painting. Yeah, what else? Made a lot of changes to the dress of the Black Widow. Now it has some spikes on it and whatever. Broke this window bottom plane, whatever it's called, as some of you guys recommended in the comments. And after that, I pretty much worked on a bunch of materials. Ah crap, my screen recording broke. So yeah, this is what I was showing to you. So yeah, worked on a bunch of materials, the red carpet, dark brown walls, and a lot of really dark brown furniture, and whatever, black and white outfit of the kids. Pretty basic stuff for now. Did a lot of improvement on the way the air perspective looks like. Not air perspective, but the fog in the room, specifically these rays right here. It's not very visible right now because of the whole noise, but there's some pattern to the way the fog is. I applied a texture to its density. That's basically what I did. And yeah, the EV view is good for looking at what materials look like generally. This mode is even called the Look Dev mode, because this is the only way you can see what textures look like, if we would have any. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I also added a bunch of light sources that we can probably only see this way with proper brightness and such. So in here we have 3 light sources all close to each other, and I'm planning to make like a candle thing right here standing, so it would make sense. And yeah, another light source over here on this wall, and one over there just so it would look like there's something going on as well. Ooh, another light source is lighting up the edge of the room, so if we render this, you can see this side of the doorway is not pitch black anymore, so there's some light going on, and it's lighting up this kid as well a little bit, so kind of looks good, I think. Okay, borrow from the future here, and I have some bad news. This is the only footage I have from the screen for this episode. Apparently, if I'm recording, I shouldn't be using the experimental full screen Blender mode, or maybe just full screen modes of any app, because that resulted in the whole footage being frozen, with my cursor moving around smoothly, but nothing actually is changing inside of the Blender window, so now I just don't have the footage from the screen. And since I can't really redo all the work I did in this episode, since this is artwork and I only have the latest version of my Blender document, so I'm gonna make sure this whole thing works out the best way possible. We're gonna be seeing this view a lot, and whenever you see this red text on the screen, that means this is not actually the footage I was working on in the episode, but it's me explaining something in the future with the new footage. So yeah, that's basically it. Hope everything's gonna be clear enough. Also, the last 5 minutes of the video actually has normal footage because I happened to switch off the full screen mode. So in the end, you'll see the result pretty well, so that's good. And our plan for today is to add more kids. They're probably gonna fill up a lot of this room, so right now we have like, I don't remember, 14 I think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 4 at the top, so yeah, 14. So it's gonna be like 20, 25 maybe, so the thing will look much more crowded. We'll add some action on what kind of thing the Black Widow is holding, some kind of big bowl or something like that, where the raw meat is, and we'll add some kind of raw meat right here that she's throwing on the floor, and some of it right here as well, and a couple of kids around to show that they're all gathering around this area to eat the meat. So we're gonna make this whole action going on. Next thing, we'll also look up the references for the Victorian chandeliers and make the design of this magical thing thing right here to be more like what we actually gonna need in the painting process. Some kind of a geometry guide for what we could actually use, because right now this is just a pure improvisation. And yeah, after we finish that, we'll render the first look of the picture and we'll move on to Photoshop and turn the picture into a good base for a painting. So that's gonna be interesting. This is gonna be the last thing we do in this episode. So yeah, let's start cloning some kids and adding some meat. There is no other way to say that. Alright, so at this point I was selecting the kids by their pelvises, or one of them. Then I pressed Shift G, select children. This is not visible. There we go. So this way I got the whole body selected, all the body parts. Shift D to copy, Shift Z to move only horizontally, and my past self will explain everything else later. So yeah, making more kids and such. Interesting workflow about the way you position a model like that, where you should like rotate the body parts and quickly put them in a proper pose and angle and everything. Generally, right now I have like a system on how to approach this. So since I don't have any kind of inverse kinematics in here or whatever, because you need bones for that, I have like an order in which I approach a new pose. So first of all, the bone that is apparent to everything else is the pelvis. So when you change the place or the angle of the pelvis, you change everything else. So it's a good idea to start thinking on the new pose with where the pelvis will be. So that's what I always do. At first I reposition this, then I'm thinking on the legs to actually place the character on the floor properly. Something like that. I really like in Blender the approach to rotating the object by just pressing R and rotating the objects in the screen space, like from your view angle. And for that, a big part of this rotating tool is your camera. Like you have to position it in a proper angle, but it's actually really quick, and you still have to see how exactly you're rotating. You'll still have to move the camera around to see what you did. So why not first move the camera and then rotate? So it's a pretty cool way to do this. And so yeah, when we did the legs, now we're thinking like going away further and further from the pelvis. Now I'm gonna rotate the body. It's really cool to rotate the body using both bones of it. Looks really natural and saves some time. Then the arms, I'll probably push them a bit forward like this, so this kid is reaching for the meat. So what do you look like in the camera though? We can't see you at all. Well, that's great. Forgot to check on the canvas. You should always work from this point of view, number one. I mean, you can be right here, and we'll probably make this kid a bit more vertical, or just move him backwards. So he would be there, and this kid is right here, and the meat is laying around in this area. I think that'll look pretty cool, and we'll have like a three-dimensional circle around this meat area, kind of like highlighting this area in a way that is important. Oh yeah, it's getting pretty crowded in here, huh? Yeah, I also forgot to mention, I added like eyes to these guys. I forgot this is new for you. So yeah, these eyes, they are like dark gray, but they're not shaded. Like they're always light gray, even in pitch black. So they're kind of glowing, but not really. I just wanted to have some kind of marking of where their eyes are, and they will probably have some kind of visible eyes without irises or something. We'll decide on that later, but for now we just have a mark. So Nadia said we definitely should have one of the kids crawling from underneath the dress, and maybe the spiders will be going on in there as well, so this is a good place to do this. So something like that will be going on, and underneath we'll see the kid, and the spiders will probably add in the actual painting already. I don't think I even need to position an actual kid in there, we'll just do that in the painting. Seems like a lot of work to do if we would actually put the kid in there. I don't need that kind of geometry guide, so this is definitely good enough. Now let's do the bowl and the meat on the floor, and that is all I have to say for now. So yeah, here I created a bowl from a basic cylinder and a bunch of meat from basic cubes, then just positioned everything in the proper place. Alright, so I guess this is it for the kids and for the meat. So we have it right here, did some extra effort and made a nice indent from the bowl onto the dress, looking kind of cool. Generally, I think this is the prettiest thing you can do with 3D art. Outside of just the technology, when you apply a lot of like high resolution textures and proper materials, the best thing you can do is when you make your objects, your models, being tactile to each other, like pressing the soft cloth of this dress right here. This kid is sitting on the dress like this. It's also really cool. And over here, it's also interesting. And the way this kid is kind of like really sitting on this place and totally not actually sitting. What am I talking about? But I mean like how he's hugging the chair everywhere and stuff like that. It's really, you feel like these things are alive, they really exist in one space. They actually talk to each other and stuff like this, touching the floor. That Jesus kid, I wasn't going for Jesus, he doesn't look like Jesus in the final painting, but the pose itself looked like that a lot. So yeah, things are going pretty well, I think. I made sure that all the kids and all the pieces of the meat are visible in a nice way like this. We can't really see what's going on inside of the bowl though, but I mean, not everything has to be totally visible. Makes sense that she's holding it like this, right? She has to see the insides of it, not us. Maybe in the painting we'll add like, obviously there will be like blood in here and maybe some gross pieces of intestines hanging off or something like that. Generally, the whole composition, the whole idea is kind of really close to the Eat Your Reds Jeremy, only in this case, kids are eating actual, hopefully normal meat. It's just that it's raw, but they seem to like it, so it's alright. But really, I only now kind of realized that some elements are close in nature to the previous big painting I did. So yeah, it's time to do the chandelier. Let's look up the references. Alright. So it should be definitely with actual candles, right? I see most of them like imitate candles, but obviously these are modern chandeliers. I need like the worst chandelier lighting wise. Like it doesn't really matter. Thing is, we don't need it to be too big and too strong of a kind of a light source. And also not too crazy hard to paint. Maybe this kind of stuff, right? Or maybe a little bit more broad, like with actual like circular arrays of candles. Pretty much like this, maybe? It's not the easiest one to paint, but we can do some tricks with the 3D guidance that may help us a lot. We'll see. Yeah, I guess let's go with this one. How many of these are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. On top there are 4 of these, but at the bottom there seems to be more of the actual candle branches like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I suppose, behind. So they're like doubling at the bottom, when at the top there's only 4, and 4 candles as well. At the bottom there's 8. That's pretty much all we have to know, actually. We're not gonna copy this one specifically, so whatever. The wiggly swirly things, and 4 on top, 8 at the bottom, and the general shape is like this. The best way to describe it. How much do we have in here? That's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 16. Okay, so we need 2 times less than that. So we'll destroy every other one. Alright, and good thing we're not going with this extra massive thing. That's not very productive to have. We'll just make you really, really slim. And so he did make it slim, and also cleaned up some topology. So its actual tip should be on the level with all the candles, something like that. And so he did. Well, you get the point. I modeled the chandelier somewhat the way it looked in the references. Alright, that looks like a pretty good guide to me. Maybe a little bit less massive, but not even necessary, I don't know. Yeah, there we go. We'll probably update the lighting to this so it would work even better, like these are actual white candles and their tips will be bright, so we'll have a bit of a better shading of the chandelier itself. Yeah, we'll do that, and aside from that, everything's pretty much done, I think. And now my past self is applying new materials to the candles and placing the light sources right above them. There we go, this looks like candles. He seems to like it. Only now it's too bright. I did avoid lighting up every single candle, because that would be kind of weird. Too good for this kind of place, so some of them are not lit up. But I think we also should make them just darker. Generally, I decided that the main light in the scene should be probably the moonlight, and all the candle lights will be very local. Like, they add a little bit of ambience in the room just so we would see what's going on in here, but overall, it's mostly about this moonlight lighting up the widow's silhouette and making a really strong air perspective behind her. So yeah, now we have the scene, and I'm trying to put it all together by lighting, because one thing that's really different in a painting from reality is that in a painting everything is perfect, especially lighting-wise, and just the way the objects are distributed on the canvas, but we already kind of took care of that. Now we need to make sure that the lighting is just right, that we see everything we need to see, that the mood is not broken by any of the extra lights we add, and so it would look like what this place is supposed to look like, generally. So I decided there is a light source right here behind this wall, lighting up the room a little bit. Like, we don't know what that light source is, maybe a lot of candles in there or something, but at least it's too strong right now, I think. Yeah, I think this brightness is pretty good. Kinda wanna bring more light to the area around the meat. So let's maybe add the light source over there. Not sure, it should be really dim so it wouldn't look like something completely unnatural. Alright, so far so good. Generally, we'll add a lot of air perspective behind all the black heads of the kids. That's for sure, that works right away really well. I actually removed, in the previous episode I was talking about these plates of fog that I'm adding behind the characters. Maybe I'll bring them back to have them, that seems like a pretty easy way to highlight the black objects just the right way we need, but generally we can just do that in Photoshop in post. Not sure which way is better. So yeah, something like this looks pretty artistic. So this is literally what I would do in a painting, but right now we can make sure that it stays intact if we change something because it's in the scene. So yeah, let's add some more of these behind the kids' heads and maybe behind the widow a little bit. Add some materials to the objects, because right now I can see I forgot to make the meat red and the bowl of bowl color. This is it. This is the live footage now, so the rest of the episode is gonna be awesome, and I'm going away back to my future. And this looks like a nice piece of metallic something. But what if we move the moon to light up not the left side, but actually the meat in this area, avoiding actually lighting up the camera that we're looking from? So that's where the light is falling now. This is the meat, and the camera is right here. Really close to the light, but not in it. Now this is something actually very interesting to play around with, in 3D especially. How cool is the fact that we can do all this? Oh yeah, this is so much better, such a nice spot, and we can see a really cool silhouette, and this meat is right here in the moonlight. So yeah, I'm pretty much out of time for this episode, but I still want to show you something about the Photoshop workflow. So I'm gonna render this later, but we'll first take a look at the previous version, and I'm gonna tell you now how I was experimenting with the whole post-processing to bring this render closer to the painting base. So this is one of the stages that I did. By the way, as you can see, it has some really cool like film effects on it. Depth of field, which is actually a post filter that I use in rendering. I have a whole bunch of settings right here. This is the Compositing node editor, and I created a whole bunch of different stuff. I'll maybe show it to you in the next episode, but it has like everything in here connected. We get like air perspective pass out of it, sketch pass, although it's not really good. In here we work on the depth of field, applying defocus by the mask of the depth rendering, and then we also use Filmify filter, where we have glare that adds this cool star kind of glow from the face of the Black Widow in here. Lens distortion that creates, like you can see, instead of being straight, this doorway is actually bent inwards, so everything is like distorted inwards into the center of the picture. Usually you would use it the other way around. Usually you would like bloat it up outwards, so it would compensate for the distortion from strong perspective. You can see this guy is really stretched like this because he's close to the edge of the view. And if you actually use the opposite distortion, the bloating distortion, let me quickly show it to you. Photoshop has it actually, but it's good that we can have it in Blender specifically because it's always going to be the same way even if we re-render something. So right here I just move it, and you can see if I would add this kind of distortion, this kid on the edge, he starts to look normal even though we have like curvy walls. You see now they are bending outwards. This is actually like better generally to compensate for the strong perspective, but I actually decided to go the other way around, and I think this is the way we're gonna use it in the final picture. I bent it inwards so the whole picture would look a lot more spiky. It kind of looks like a spider web in a way, you know, like, so it's bringing a really cool like shape language to the picture. It looks spiky, it looks like it's not safe, so that's really cool. So anyway, we have this picture, and one of the results that I got before was this. So this is the kind of look we can get to pretty easily using this pass of depth, or so-called like fog render or something, and using it in a separate layer with a mask. We can add as much air perspective as we need where we need it, so that's really cool. But the main awesomeness of this picture is of course this kind of special softening filtering. Normally, like in most cases, it will work pretty well with a simple either surface blur, or it's called smart blur or something like that. When you press it, you can kind of like smooth certain areas of the picture while keeping the sharpest details still sharp, like this. So this is actually bringing the picture closer to what a painting would look like. This is something you do when you render a picture. You segregate soft and dim details and lose their edges sometimes while keeping the bright details sharp. So this is a really good thing to have, like it removes a lot of unnecessary details while still giving us a really good understanding of what's where. And also pretty common filter called median, that is to smooth out but not soften, just smooth out the details that are remaining, so it creates this kind of a gooey workaround. And after that you can pretty much build picture on top. But in my version, we actually have an even better result. It has really nice soft quality to it, And that's because I actually used a really strong case of denoising in Camera Raw filter. Camera Raw is like a Lightroom inside of Photoshop as a plugin. Literally, this is the same thing you get in Lightroom. Of course, this is far from being free and everything, so generally that's why I described other filters that you can use in most programs. But in Lightroom, I really love, like, if we go to the detail settings, we tweak the luminance noise reduction to the 100. So immediately we get this, we remove all of the noise from the rendering right away, so that's good. Then we even lower the detail and we get to this kind of, like, literally it starts to paint for you. This is so cool looking. Look how it kind of like smooths out and creates a common shape of the Black Widow, in many cases doing something that I would start doing with a blending brush right away. It actually does it for us. And then luminance contrast can kind of control that a little bit more, but I don't know, don't want to overdo it too much. And then a little bit of color denoising to remove any kind of remaining noise that we used to have right here, before color denoising and after. And this immediately makes it such a good base to start painting. Like, look at this. You already know exactly how easily it will be to start working with this. I assume. I haven't tried actually painting on this, but it seems like a really good thing to use as a base. And yeah, with a little bit of extra layers, color correction, fog work, in Photoshop you can get this kind of base and then build from it. So yeah, I'll render what we've got in 3D into this kind of stage, and then prepare the Photoshop document the same way, and we'll get our base to start painting in the next episode. So yeah, this is it. I may include some of the process or the final look of what I'll render from our scene right here in the very end of the video, so check it out. And yeah, tell me guys what you think about everything. Did we do good? I think this composition looks really cool, and I'll render around and I'll see, like, in this noise it's not exactly perfect to understand whether we get the perfect kind of lighting or not. So I'll experiment a little bit with the rendering, with what I like on the picture, and yeah, you'll see the final result by the next episode. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess I did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe, tell a friend. This looks like jelly beans. Do whatever you want, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! I love the way this bowl looks so much. It's probably gonna look much worse in the final render, right? Like much darker and less reflective. Yeah, that's about the way it always goes.